Okay, so I had a chance to visit Paris, France during my Europe trip in 2022. However, I only got time to edit the footage now, so here's my itinerary for a 3-day trip to Paris. Let's go.
Skinny, thick, tall, short, I don't mind. Black, white, yellow, brown, I don't mind. Dirty money, clean money, I don't mind. I don't mind, no, I don't mind. Skinny, thick.
So the first day that I arrived in Paris, I arrived at around sometime in the afternoon, so I headed straight to my hostel. I quickly got changed and headed out to start exploring Paris. And as you can see here, it was hella sunny, hella hot. I was later on informed that this part of Europe was hit with a heat wave. The temperature went up to 40 degrees during the afternoon. I tried my best to explore the city a little bit, and after walking for a while, I got hungry, so I wanted to stop by a place for lunch. I was recommended a falafel place by a friend, which is called Las du Falafel. But as you can see, there was a huge line in front of this place. I was told that this restaurant is hella popular, so that explains the line. But your boy was not ready to stand under the heat of 40 degrees to wait for a falafel, so I continued my walk and sheltered inside a cafe, got a cold drink, some food, and headed out to continue the exploration. I walked down to first arrondissement, visited the main square, Place des Vosges. Not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Visited all the gardens. All the buildings were beautiful. Again, I was so in awe of the architecture, the history. I do have a question though. Why is there so much feces on the floor, on the street? Anyways, I continued walking down to the center to have a look at the Louvre Museum, and then I decided to grab a drink and a bite and started walking down the Seine River. I have to say, this river is probably one of the most romantic sights I've seen. And then I continue my walk towards the Eiffel Tower. You can't say that you visited Paris without seeing the Eiffel Tower. So here I am taking an electric scooter, zooming down the street of Paris. Around 11 p.m., I strolled up to the park facing the Eiffel Tower to take a beautiful video of the Eiffel Tower in its grand glory. And here you go. All right, day 2, museum day. So I made a point to visit the Louvre Museum when I was in Paris because I think the Louvre is such a monumental site of Paris that you can't really skip it if you're visiting Paris for the first time. I know that there will be a lot of people, so I had done some research prior to arriving in Paris. I found out that there are potentially some secret gateway to enter the museum without waiting in line. You can enter through the underground shopping mall, through the Carrousel du Louvre, and over there you can also buy the ticket, but the line is a lot shorter. So that's what I did. However, they must have caught up with this trick So they stopped selling tickets at this entrance. So I had to go back up to the main entrance and wait in line with the people there. And as you can see in this photo, there was probably 100 people in front of me. After maybe 45 minutes of waiting, I eventually got inside the museum. So the Louvre Museum occupies a massive complex of buildings that were once part of the royal palace of the French monarchy. It is, I believe, the largest museum in the world that covers an area of 50,000 square meters. It has so many artifacts that they say if you spend 30 seconds at each artifact, it will take you 100 days, which is 3 months to go through the entire museum, which is crazy to me. So I went to see the sections that interested me the most. For example, the Egyptian, Greek, Roman Empire, the Apollon Gallery, the Napoleon apartments, which I highly recommend. The viewing was designed so well in such a way that you get to see the history from beginning to end as if you're being told a story as you walk through the hall. And after 3 hours, I finally got tired. My legs gave out and I was super hungry. So I decided to leave the museum and went out to get some food. I scouted a restaurant that served French cuisine, so I stopped by and took a table for one, and I have to say this is probably the best meal I've had on this trip so far. It was so amazing. The meat was falling off the bones and so well marinated. I was the only one that sat alone, but I do not care because the food was amazing. After lunch, I decided to take a walk again and then took the metro to go up to Montmartre. Montmartre is a neighborhood in Paris that is known for its artistic and bohemian atmosphere. It is located on a hill in the northern part of the city. And I was also told that Montmartre has been home to many famous artists, including Van Gogh, Picasso, and Matisse. And I would say that this neighborhood is definitely a must-see destination for art lovers and also if you like history as well. Day 3, Versailles. This is probably the day that I was most excited for. The Palace of Versailles, or Château de Versailles in French, is one of the most famous and grandest palaces in the world. So it is located in Versailles, which is a suburb of Paris, and it served as the royal residence of the French monarchy from the 17th to the 18th century. It's about a 40 or 45 minute train ride from Paris, and you should make this as a day trip because there's so much to see here. So what I did was I paid for a bike tour to explore this suburb. I met up with this tour in Paris early in the morning, and we all took the train together to Versailles. And over there, each of us was given a bike, and we started biking around the town. And we also stopped at a market to pick up some food for lunch as well. And then off we went on the tour. We started the tour by biking through all the buildings of the estate of Trianon. So just to give you guys a bit of a background, the estate of Trianon in Versailles is a significant part of the larger Palace of Versailles complex. It consists of several buildings and gardens that served as private retreats for the French monarchs away from the formalities of the main palace. And it has several buildings and gardens, including the Grand Trianon, which is a palace built by Louis XIV in the late 17th century. The Grand Trianon was primarily used as a private residence for the king and his close circle. There's also the Petit Trianon. The Petit Trianon is a small palace constructed during the reign of Louis XV for his mistress, Madame de Pompadour. However, it gained fame when it became the private domain of Queen Marie Antoinette. The Petit Trianon and its surrounding gardens offer Marie Antoinette an escape from the rigid court life, allowing her to indulge in her own interests and hobbies. After visiting all the buildings and gardens of the Trianon, we stopped at the garden of the main palace right next to the lake to have lunch that we had picked up at the market that morning. It was very simple, just some croissant, chocolatine, some cold cuts, and some juice, nothing too crazy. And then after that, we went to the main event, which is the palace itself. So the Palace of Versailles is one of the most famous and grandest palaces in the world. One of the most impressive aspects of the Palace of Versailles is its architecture and design. The palace features opulent, ornate decorations and furnishings with grand halls and rooms adorned with gold leaf, marble, and intricate frescoes. Another special thing about this palace is that it played a major role in the political and cultural history of France, serving as the center of power for the French monarchy and witnessing many key events in French history, such as the signing of the Treaty of Versailles that ended World War I. And outside of this palace is the Gardens of Versailles, which is in and of itself a monumental site. So the gardens are one of the most famous and breathtaking gardens in the world, I have to say. They were designed by André Le Nôtre in the 17th century, and they're considered a masterpiece of French landscape architecture. The gardens cover over 2,000 acres of land with numerous fountains, statues, and formal gardens that are laid out in intricate patterns. The gardens are so large that it can take days to explore them fully. Overall, I highly recommend this bike tour because Versailles is so large that you can't make it through the entire site on foot. I think biking was a good way to go through the entire town without tiring out yourself, but also being able to kind of get some exercise in while listening to the history of the entire site. And that's it. That was my itinerary for 3 days in Paris. It was a very short trip, but I enjoyed it very much. Paris holds a very special place in my heart. For me, coming from Montreal, which is a city with a lot of French influence, Paris felt like a brand new experience, but also at the same time felt like home to me. I think the city did an amazing job of preserving the history. You can really see it through the architecture, the buildings, the streets. And now I do see why Paris is the most visited city in the world. I'll definitely come back here because I feel like I only explored a small fraction of its charm. So until next time, Paris, goodbye.